Good night, everyone. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I am here live to answer your U.S. immigration related questions. So go ahead and put your questions in the comments. Let me formally introduce myself. I am U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I help clients to get their green card and status in the United States. I'm also here every night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time to take your questions, your immigration related questions. I usually come with a topic to talk about, and tonight I want to talk about the different ways. So some of the most common ways to obtain permanent residence, your green card in the United States. So I'm going to just give you an overview, but keep in mind that your questions can really guide the conversation. It can help me to give you information that you care about. So don't hesitate to put your questions in the comments. Your questions don't have to be related to the topic I'm talking about. It could be anything that's immigration related. So please feel free to put those questions in, because your questions are my priority here. That's my main priority. So let us talk about ways to obtain permanent residence in the United States. So I'm going to talk about the general categories, and of course, if you have specific questions, feel free to put them in the comments. So the first is through employment. A lot of people don't realize that they can apply for permanent residence through employment, even if so there are different categories. So there are employment-based for professors, for individuals with extraordinary ability, individuals that can bring something valuable to the table in the U.S. through the national interest waiver. Then there are also the categories for professionals, as well as those who don't necessarily have a degree, but their services, their labor is still needed by the employer. And if the employer is willing to apply and go through what's called a labor certification process, then it could be a process that they could pursue. Now, another thing is, suppose you're in the United States without status and someone is willing to apply for you. What you would have to do is fix your status. Because once under employment-based immigration, so to get the employment-based green card, you would have to maintain your legal status in the United States. But if for some reason you are unable to do that, if you're able to apply for a waiver by showing that you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse or parent who will experience extreme hardship, then it could still be a possibility for you to get permanent residence in the United States. If you have additional questions about how to do this, definitely get in touch, schedule a consultation, and let's talk about your options, especially if you do have a prospective employer. What's a co-sponsorship? So if with a co-sponsor, it's usually down to the affidavit of support. So during the immigration process, whether you're applying for permanent residence in the United States or from outside of the United States, the petitioner in family immigration is usually required to show that they meet income requirements. They meet the income requirements to support the immigrant relative. And so if they don't meet the immigrant, the requirements for income, they can get a co-sponsor to submit additional documents or submit an additional affidavit of support document. That's what the form is called that you have to sign, to show that their income can make up the lack of the required income on your end. And so that is what the co-sponsor is. And it's how you know whether or not you meet the income requirements is if you go to uscis.gov and you type in I-864P, then you'll see the chart with the income based on the household. So how do they sign, or do they write a letter? So no, absolutely not. The co-sponsor will need to complete a form, so called the affidavit of support, but it depends on what their relationship is to you. So for example, if they're a household member, if they're already in your household, there's a special form for that. If they're just co-sponsoring, there's a special form for that. And so they do have to fill out immigration forms, sign a document, provide information for their to show their income, as well as to provide their tax return, at least their most recent tax return. So if this is something, it's very technical, and I urge you to get a consultation at DBGJ, because that is that one thing that can lead to delays and even a denial in your case. So you want to make sure that you are ahead of the game, that you complete the documentation or get a co-sponsor, and that you meet all the requirements beforehand. You can call 561-405-4889 to go ahead and schedule that consultation. So I think Jules, about the consultation. So what you can do is you can go to the website by going to the link in my bio. You'll see the website button. You can go there. You can fill out a contact form, and the scheduling coordinator will get back to you. Or you can call 561-405-4889 and then leave your name, your information, and the scheduling coordinator will call you on the next business day. So those are the ways that you can do that. How much money do you need to have? So KES clicks, there's a whole chart, and it really depends on your household. So in order to figure out how much income you need to meet, Jules, you're welcome. You can go to uscis.gov, and if you search the I-864P form, just type it in the search bar of that website, and you'll see that chart. And it's going to list the household size along with the income that you should be meeting depending on your household size. If my parents had food stamps, can it affect? So no, not necessarily. I don't know what your facts are at DBDJ, and so I wouldn't be able to confirm in your case whether it's going to affect your parents. You know, there are different things that I would have to verify. How did they get the food stamps? What are your parents' status? And so forth. And so I wouldn't be able to confirm. Keep in mind the information I'm giving you here. Princess Style, thank you so much. The information here I'm giving you is general information. If you want to confirm in a personal consultation whether this has a likelihood of affecting your parents, definitely schedule a consultation. Now, generally, food stamps in itself, I don't know what your parents' status are, but if your parents are U.S. citizens and they're the ones that are taking the food stamps, it may not affect the process, except that if they're taking food stamps, could it be an indication that they can't meet the income requirements? And that's also something that you have to pay attention to. So Princess Dial, thanks so much for the love. I appreciate that. So DBDJ, so if she came in with a visa, definitely schedule a consultation and I can go through your particular facts and determine what's going on in your case and how it could possibly affect your situation. Camps 356, thanks for sharing the live. I appreciate. Do you assist in getting a USA visitor's visa? So I definitely would start with a consultation to determine what your issue is in regards to getting the visitor's visa, advise accordingly, and if it is something that I can help you with, we could definitely talk about that in the consultation. But I do require the consultation to go over the facts, because when it comes on to the visitor's visa, it could be so many different, it could be a straightforward case, or there could be a waiver that's required if there's an inadmissibility. And so I'd want to hear more about what's going on to determine whether it is a case that I can take. Kez Clicks, thanks for the love. I appreciate that. So go ahead, keep putting those questions in the comments. I'm here to answer your immigration questions. I'm also here talking about generally, giving you a general overview. Jules JTW, you're welcome, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you in a consultation. Now, I'm talking about generally how do individuals get permanent residence in the United States. There's so many different ways. However, I'm talking about some of the most common ways. And the first is, I explained through employment, right? That the employment could be a possible avenue, especially if you're here, you have a prospective employer and you want to figure out what your options could be. Kim Bailey, thanks for the follow. No, but the other one, which is most common, this is the most common form of immigration to the United States, and it is through family. So let's see, can a student become a permanent resident? So Jabari, it could be possible, but it depends on how you qualify. For example, as a student, are you being recruited by an employer who's willing to apply for your permanent residence? Sometimes the path from student, so it goes from student to employment-based temporary visa, like an H-1B, then from H-1B to a permanent resident. So it depends on how you qualify. Do you have a family member here that can apply for you to become a permanent resident? Or are you married? So for example, a lot of students come here, they fall in love, they get married, and that could be a path for them. Are you the citizen of a country that qualifies for the diversity lottery? So these, it really depends on how you can qualify. It is possible, but it's not possible to jump directly from student. So there's nothing that says a student qualifies directly to become a permanent resident after a certain amount of years of being a student. There's nothing like that. But you can change from student status to permanent resident if something else comes up in your background that helps you to qualify for permanent residence through an employer, through family, through humanitarian means, and even through the diversity lottery. That's a lottery for the green card if you are the citizen of a country that qualifies for that. Christina Walker, how long does it take to hear from USCIS after submitting your paperwork for removal of conditions? So right now, to get the receipt notice, now if you're talking about the final decision, it's taking about 18 months. That's the average amount of time. Keep in mind, unfortunately, I am seeing cases going even beyond the 18 months, unfortunately. However, prepare for 18 months. You will get a receipt notice with an extension letter for the next 18 months as well. And that can allow you to carry on as a permanent resident with that letter. So you usually have the letter along with your permanent residence to show that you currently are a permanent resident. And this is one of the most common questions that I get is, can you travel while you're waiting? And yes, you can travel as long as you have your evidence that you continue to be a permanent resident through the extension letter. So a Jabari, a brother, a sister, and a brother. So siblings, U.S. citizen siblings can apply for their siblings, but keep in mind that it is not a quick and easy process just because of the processing time. It does take 14 years at minimum, and it can be longer depending on what country you're from. So keep that in mind, that if you are a student here and you end up falling out of status, that can complicate your case. Because in order to stay in the U.S. and continue on to getting permanent residence, you do have to maintain your status unless you qualify for an exception. So for example, if you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse or parent, in this case, I don't see that's the case. And so that is where, before you do anything, before you make any decisions, for your next steps, you need to get a consultation to explore your options. That's the best thing, to know your options, know how to approach your situation, and most importantly, to avoid devastating mistakes that can affect you and your chances in the future. So question, what documents do you need for affidavit of support? And also, what if you don't meet the income requirements? So it's called the affidavit of support form is called the I-864 form. Now keep in mind that there are additional forms depending on your particular situation, and that's where it's very important to get a consultation to make sure that you are doing it correctly, because if you don't do it correctly, it can lead to a delay and even a denial in your case. So you want to be straight with that. but the most common form used, or the main form used, is the I-864 form. Now, if you don't meet the income requirements, that's where you're probably going to have to find a co-sponsor that can help you to make up your income. It's kind of like a co-signer in a way, where the person, if they can help you to meet the income requirements, then they would complete an affidavit of support form as well, and then submit it along with you, and they have to submit all the evidence as well. How long does it take to get your 18-month extension letter? So right now, I'm seeing 4 to 6 weeks to get that extension letter. My son is in Jamaica. Can my husband file for him with a 10-year green card? So if you and your husband got married before your son turned 18, your husband could definitely file for him as a stepchild of a permanent resident. And now is a good time actually for green card holders to sponsor their children, because he as a stepchild of a green card holder, he would qualify similar to a child of a green card holder. And right now there's no wait list for an immigrant visa number, which means that he would go through the entire, so once the petition is approved, it would go straight through to the National Visa Center. Now, I don't know where your son is. So my son is in Jamaica. Okay. So Monifa, in that case, yes. However, it's always best to get a consultation before you do anything. The information I'm giving you here is general information, and I don't know what your particular facts are. And so I wouldn't be able to confirm definitely, but generally, if you get married to a green card holder before your child turns 18, your green card holder spouse can file for them as a stepchild. Can you use your bank account savings to prove you can support your spouse? So yes, that is definitely something that you can prove and it would fall under assets. So if you have additional assets, if you own a home, if you own valuable property that has equity in there, you could definitely add that to show that you can meet the income requirements. Monifa, you're welcome. Keep those questions coming, because I'm here to answer your immigration related questions. Put those questions in the comments and I will go ahead and answer your questions as they come in. I also want to let you know that I will be heading over to Instagram at 9:30 to do another live there, pre-scheduled live. And you are free to continue this conversation with me over on Instagram. So you can go to the Instagram button, click on the Instagram button, and the link is in my bio. It'll take you to Instagram, where you can go ahead and join me over there and continue the conversation, especially if I don't get to your questions. So if he filed for him, I will get a green. So if he filed for him, then children of green card holders, stepchildren of green card holders, can get their permanent residence. That's what, if he files for him to get his permanent residence. However, the timing, Monifa, he can do it separately from you, if that's what you're saying. So green card holders can file for their stepchildren separately from the actual biological parent. So keep those questions coming, because I'm here to answer your immigration related questions. Now, I am going to be going over to Instagram shortly, as I'm still here though, so keep putting those questions in the comments. But as soon as I head over, the conversation doesn't have to end here. We can continue the conversation over on Instagram, where I also take questions. I follow the same format, except it's on Instagram. LilyMark8, thanks for sharing the live. You can find the Instagram page by going to the link in my bio and clicking on the Instagram button. You can also just type in the immigration attorney. That is also my name on my handle on Instagram. So I have been talking about applying for permanent residence, some of the most common ways to do this. I talked about employment, and then there's family. So if you have, now generally speaking, now the length of time and what process you'll be following is going to depend on where you are, what your age is, who your relative is. But generally speaking, if you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse or parent, or if you have a citizen son or daughter who's 21 and up, or if you have a sibling, a U.S. citizen sibling who's 21 and up, then you could possibly qualify for permanent residence. Now, the length of time varies. Being the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen takes the shortest time right now. That time is about 18 months. It could be as short as 9 months, could be as long as 24 months, even longer right now. But the average time is about 18 months. Now, if immediate relatives of U.S. citizens is not all relatives of U.S. citizens. Immediate relatives of U.S. citizens are the spouse of a U.S. citizen, the parent of a U.S. citizen, and that U.S. citizen is 21 and up, or the son or daughter of a U.S. citizen who is under 21 and unmarried. If you don't fall into that category, then you're going to fall into another category, and it's likely going to take a little longer. Then the next fastest process right now is being the son or the son or daughter under 21 and unmarried of a green card holder, or the spouse of a green card holder. The reason it is the next best thing is because it's currently current, meaning that there is no wait list for the immigrant visa number, which is what takes the longest time and what creates the long processing times. So in this case, right now, as soon as the petition is approved, it moves on and it goes to the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center starts to process the case, and as soon as the National Visa Center has all the information, they then transfer it to the embassy for an interview. So that's the next best. Now, if you don't fall within this category, it's going to take a couple of years now, unfortunately. So if you are the son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, you're 21 and over, it's taking 6 to 7 years. If you are the son or daughter of a green card holder, you're unmarried, you have to be unmarried to be sponsored by a green card holder parent, that's taking 5 to 6 years. If you're the married son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, that's taking 12 years. And if you are the son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, the sibling of a U.S. citizen, and that U.S. citizen is 21 and up, it's taking a minimum of 14 years. So as you can see, the time does differ based on how long, who's sponsoring you, what your age is, and even what your marital status is. No, so keep that in mind. And then also, it's really gonna, immediate relatives of U.S. citizens, even if you're out of status, if you came in with a visa, or you were inspected at the border, or you were paroled, but you are now out of status, you could still qualify to adjust status, meaning apply for the permanent residence in the United States. However, if you don't fall within that category, you're not applying for VAWA, that's if you're being mistreated by certain U.S. relatives, you're not a T or U visa recipient, then at that point, you're going to have to be looking at consular processing, meaning to complete the process at the U.S. Embassy in your home country. The problem is if you are here without status, and you don't qualify to apply in the U.S., you'll have to fix your status first. And to do that, you'll have to apply for a waiver. And so it's very important to schedule a consultation to evaluate your options to see if you have a way to do that. Now, keep in mind, I'm still here. I'm going to be here for like another minute. So go ahead, drop your last few questions. Keep in mind, I'm here every night. I'm here every night at 9 p.m. So if you can't join me on Instagram at 9:30, you can always hop on at 9 p.m. on any given night, and I will likely be there, of course, for very few exceptions. Smoothness 81. I've had my I-130 approved for almost a year, but my wife keeps putting it off. So smoothness 81. If your wife is putting it off because of, I know in some cases it's because, there is some mistreatment going on in the relationship. If that is the case, then you could possibly look at applying for your own green card. If she's putting it off and you're really seeing where she could sabotage your process. Otherwise, otherwise I wouldn't be able to advise unless I know what the facts are in your case. So smoothness, I urge you to get a consultation schedule, and then we can talk more about your situation. What business you're speaking about? Sorry, I now joined. Okay, so I'm talking about U.S. immigration, immigrating to the United States and getting permanent residence. Ways you can do that, which is through employment, through family, and right now I'm talking about family, but I'm mainly here to answer your immigration questions. So I got no family in the U.S. Any other way to apply? So no, if you don't have any family, don't have any employer, there is what's called the diversity lottery. It's not for every single citizen, foreign citizen. However, it is for citizens of certain countries. You can check it out by going to the Department of State's website. See if this is something that you could sign up for. So Zapanolia, no, I'm not doing Canada. I'm only a U.S. immigration attorney, so I don't advise on Canadian immigration. So I will be heading over to Instagram. If you want to continue this conversation, continue to ask your questions, you're free to join me on Instagram right now. You can go to the link in my bio and you will see the Instagram button. Click on that. It'll take you to Instagram where we can continue this conversation. Thanks so much. So can you repeat the website? So it's the Department of State's website. You can always Google it. So if you Google Department of State, U.S. Department of State, click on the official website. It usually ends with .gov. And then you can read up about the diversity lottery. See if this is something that you could qualify for. So she's putting it off because she don't want to move back to the U.S. She's happy on my island. Okay, so in a case like that, it sounds like it's more of a personal issue between the both of you. Unfortunately, if you are, I don't know if this is unfortunate, but if you're not in a situation where you're being mistreated or your spouse is subjecting you to extreme cruelty, then it really comes down to you having that conversation with your spouse and telling her how you feel about it, because you can't, there's no way to force your spouse to do the process for you. You could do it by yourself if you were being mistreated. But if you have any additional concerns, that you haven't said here, because I know this is a public forum, you may not be comfortable with saying everything, feel free to schedule a consultation. And before I head out, let me tell you how to schedule a consultation. If you go to the link in my bio, you can see that there's a website there as well. Go to the website, you'll see a contact form. You can fill out your name and information, and then a scheduling coordinator will get back to you. Or you can call the number directly. It's a 24/7 line where a receptionist will answer. And if it's an after hours receptionist, they'll take your name, your information, and a scheduling coordinator will get right back to you. She is putting it off. Okay, so what if you got visa got canceled? Will you be able to get approved for a work permit like H-2B? So the H-2B, the employment-based visa, it really depends on the reason for the cancellation. Was there a severe immigration violation? Was there a misunderstanding? What happened? So I wouldn't be able to answer that unless I know exactly what happened in your case to determine what the potential consequences could be. So join me over at Instagram right now if you want to schedule a personal consultation, because everything I'm saying here is general information. You can go to the link in my bio, go to the website and fill out a contact form, or call, and we can call the scheduling coordinator. Will get back to you. You're welcome, Tessana. You can also join me on Instagram in a minute. If you can't join me on Instagram, then join me tomorrow at 9 p.m. again to ask your questions. Have a good night, everyone.